top? Ooh, that's a tough question. I mean, the stats were very, very close, but I think off the bat, of the surprise factor and how impressive the teams have been, I think Indonesia for sure is a favorite. But of course, we all like a comeback story, an underdog story, and Cambodia can serve as that dark horse of the tournament as we go straight into that banning phase. Joy for sure won't be making an appearance, but what else will we ban away? We see that both teams have a lot of flexibility, so usually we see some Kajas getting banned out. We see now several mages as well. Very dynamic.
You can see here, Cambodia with the second pick with the red side. They are going to try their best to, I think, ban that Joy out. But Indonesia, knowing that Cambodia has played this Leomord yesterday and was absolutely lethal on it, they decide to ban the Leomord, take it out of Cambodia's hands. But Cambodia is already going for a very interesting strat. Since that game where Deja absolutely popped off, we've always seen that the red side has banned the Joy instantly. Cambodia's left that open for now.
For now.
Is this hinting at a fact that maybe Cambodia, they were able to utilize it really well? Maybe they're able to counter it as well.
Perhaps. I mean, for now, we don't really have a solid, a very effective counter. So we'll have to see. They have banned away that Fanny because it's a signature pick for Taz on the side of Indonesia. But for the Indonesians, they have banned away that Diggy as well. This is a very common strategy these days. Pick or ban it. And for Indonesia, the fact that they have banned away is very secure. There's very good utility to fight against crowd control. You can expect some aggression, some engages, some pickoffs from the side of Indonesia as Cambodia will deny that Valentina pick.
Still, that thought is lingering over. Joy, who is it going to be let go here by Cambodia? Again, the team that utilized the Joy really well. So they should understand how much of a threat the Joy is, especially on the hands of these mechanical players from Indonesia, right? But that's the question I actually just want to ask for Cambodia right now. Is it because they know how to counter it? Because we've been talking a lot about this. We've been having discussions about how to counter the Joy lockdown heroes. But Todak tried that. They tried the Franco with the Mincetar, 2 lockdown heroes, and it did something, but it did not do enough to shut the Joy down.
Nowhere near enough, and I think that's the main problem. You may be able to counter it, but at what cost? If it's too difficult, if it's too costly for your team, you might as well don't do it. It doesn't really make sense. It's not a value kind of decision. So we have to see. This is the final ban, and this will tell. Will the Joy make an appearance? And if it's up there, will Indonesia insta-pick it? Or will they actually brave the odds and go for something more of their comfort? It all lingers in the decision of Cambodia. Now it's a bit intense, Mirko.
1-1 is up for grabs. The Joy as well. I think at this point, Cambodia, they need to double down. Don't ban the Joy. Go for a trade. Because if they do ban the Joy, it gives over that 1-1 towards Brands. We saw how lethal he was on that 1-1. But Cambodia, they're playing with fire here. Banning out the Akai, leaving Joy, Kaja, 1-1. All up for grabs. And this might be a bait. Cambodia, they can give that Joy over to Indonesia. A hero that many people have said can counter the Joy is that Kaja, bringing this Joy back with the Divine Judgment, locking her down with the suppression as well, but the Joy will still be the first pick for Indonesia. And Cambodia now has the opportunity to go for that Kaja and that 1-1.
The Kaja and the 1-1 for a bit more kiting. We did see that when Cambodia was going up against... Pardon me, I don't really remember right now at this moment, but when they were actually using this Joy as well, they banned away the 1-1, knowing that with the counter to mobility is usually more mobility as well. They have secured it, and in the hands of OP, in that essentially slightly reduced gold funnel situation, OP can actually use this 1-1 very effectively, but Indonesia is hovering on that gourd.
Whoa.
I think this is a joke. I don't think this is going to happen.
Is it though? We've seen a lot, and we've been, sometimes they actually do pick this up. Last time I think Gourd was picked up, it was a long time ago. I think it was MP Lighty Season 7.
A different lifetime ago.
A different lifetime, a different time. But now, the Joy, when it was on the hands of Deja, it was played in the mid lane. It wasn't played in the jungle. Right now, Indonesia, they do have the chance to actually flex this pick over to the jungle. I've seen some of my friends try it out. They will go and opt for the Yve and the Lolita instead of the Gourd. Pretty wise choice in the first game up against Cambodia in a best of 3. As Lolita provides such good cover for the other members against the 1-1, whether it's from the crossbow tang or just from preventing the weakness points from the get-go. And obviously the Eve becomes a solid hero to face off up against the 1-1. That matchup is pretty beneficial for the Eve, but Cambodia has that Kaja, right? So Indonesia needs to be very careful.
Especially with their backline members, unless it's a Joy, of course, because that kit has a lot of safety and security. For the side of Indonesia, though, having that Yve, we talked about utility, and now with the current changes, Yve isn't locked down only to being effective with the real-world manipulation. She can actually have a lot more impact with the other skills as well. And when you can slow down that 1-1, maybe that is how they plan on catching the 1-1 as well. The Martis, though, has been picked up by Cambodia, so they are setting up for a very, very oppressive early game.
Carmilla banned down Rashi, and now Cambodia are going to go for the first ban in the second phase. They've opted to go for the Martis. This is a very heavy dive/pick composition from Cambodia, just looking to scatter Indonesia's composition, their formation as well in these team fights, because it seems like it's the opposite. Indonesia are trying their best to form a front-to-back composition that really wants to, well, yeah, play front-to-back. That's it, you know, play around their frontliners, around their backliners. Yuzong, though, is going to be banned out. Cambodia setting up for a pretty vulnerable mage, I believe, with that Yuzong ban, because currently they do have 3 somewhat divey heroes, right?
Yeah, it's interesting right now because for Cambodia, if they are afraid of a dive, they're going to pair a long-range mage along with a Martis, Kaja, and 1-1. It doesn't really make sense on paper, but of course, when it comes to Cambodia, they usually have something just hidden up their sleeve, man. They were the ones coming out with that Joy pick as well. So we'll have to see from Indonesia what will be their response. They want to make sure they don't get dove in the backline as well. They have that Lolita to deter any kind of massive dive. So I guess what they need right now is some DPS, making sure that the Martis cannot just overpower and just run into them. But they will ban away that Faramis instead.
See, that's why I was kind of confused with the ban towards Yuzong, right, for Cambodia. It definitely sets up for a mage like Farsa to come through for Cambodia, but I would have expected that Yuzong ban to come from Indonesia with the Yve, with already somewhat of a front-to-back composition. But I think at this point, Cambodia really needs to stop brands from doing something, right? And on the 1-1, you want to just ban the Irithel. Irithel just becomes such a good pick up against the 1-1, but the Leslie actually gets banned out, leaving the Irithel up for grabs for Indonesia, which is interesting.
I think we see a similar quote-unquote tactic used by the Philippines, having a Yve and an Irithel against the 1-1. We saw it, I think, in game number 1 in the earlier match, and it makes a lot of sense. I think Leslie has a lot of damage, and that is dangerous for the Martis, for the tankier frontline members. But having an Irithel, as you mentioned, Mirko, counters that 1-1, and in the late game, if Cambodia is really going hard for an engage, the mobility coming in from an Irithel, it can just hit while moving, right, will be a huge advantage to the kite game. And looking at Indonesia right now, with a Yve, it's going to be very difficult to run away or towards the Indonesian side.
I think at this point, Indonesia needs to choose whether they want to ban out the mid lane or that XP lane. They decide to go for a Lunox ban, which is interesting, but it does signify again that Indonesia might want to go for a sustainable XP laner, a Uranus, an Esmeralda.
Fredrin?
I think the Uranus becomes a solid choice up against the 1-1. You're really good at sustaining, even up against that crossbow of Tang. But Cambodia here, it's their chance to pick first here. First pick over to Cambodia in the second phase. Ooh, hovering over a lot of very interesting heroes, but I do believe...
all the choices.
All the choices, yeah. I think the Lapu makes a lot of sense, but if they really want to try to lock that Joy down, the Jawhead's alright. I mean, we haven't seen it so far. Technically, your Unstoppable Force does follow through on every single dash, right? It can really follow you in, but they will decide to go for the safer option. You know, Jawhead in the XP lane may be a bit too aggressive, especially considering that they don't know who that Jawhead's going to be laning up against. So they go for the safer pick right now, and Indonesia can respond with an XP laner like, well, you know, it's Psychots. Paquito, Benedetta. These are the 2 heroes he's known for back in the MDL.
I think Paquito was the option that the Philippines opted for eventually in the hands of Papadap. Dapadab, Mirko. Okay. Some character development from Mirko right here. But the Paquito with the knockout strikes can be a big problem for Cambodia if they are trying to funnel in to pile up that follow-up.
Yep.
It will be the Benedetta having that elective final blow with the Petrify combo. And of course, Brands on that Melissa yet again. We have seen how slippery he can be with that getaway. And now for Cambodia, one final pick. I think crowd control is definitely something they want to go for. And some range will be very, very beneficial because they're up against so much range right now.
Forget slippery, man. When I think of Brands' Melissa, I think just sustain, because at one point up against Philippines, he was standing still. He was just hitting. He just found that opportunity, found that open space to actually go for that Inspire. And that's what you can expect from Brands. He likes to make these crazy plays happen. It doesn't matter that he dies sometimes, as long as he dishes out enough damage for his team to be enabled. But Cambodia now, ooh.
All right.
That's a solid pickup for Cambodia. Now, this is pretty scary for both teams. I think for the draft, this is, for me, I think both teams have drafted themselves a really solid composition. It's just gonna come down to the execution.
I would agree, but I think considering the fact that Cambodia is so CC reliant and Indonesia has a hero that is notorious for just ignoring, shrugging off crowd control, I think they have a slight advantage, although it does seem like Taz will be the one piloting that Joy, and that means that there will not be a Vengeance available, so the burst damage solution can still be applied by Cambodia, and that is a scary prospect, although Taz is a mechanical genius.
We'll see. We saw him on the Fanny, on the Gushin, an absolutely crazy player. But from Cambodia, we've seen Deja pop off, Olpi as well. So it's equal right now in the upper bracket finals on the draft. It's going to come down to how both of these teams execute their game plans, their styles. But Arashi, I asked you before the draft who you think is going to win. Now, after the draft, tell us.
All things considered, especially with the fact that the Joy is on the table, I must go with Indonesia. But of course, that Kadena pick is just so volatile, right? There's so much potential. And of course, when you're trying to match each other in the pick-off game, the Blessing of the Ocean is so annoying to deal with. I think the early game favors Cambodia quite a bit. But if they don't get rolling, man, that mid-game is dangerous from the side of Indonesia.
Well, I think we are going to be ready to jump into the Land of Dawn for game number 1. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, the winner of the upper bracket finals will be the first team in the grand finals securing the top 2 position. Will it be Indonesia or will it be Cambodia? As we jump into the Land of Dawn for game number 1.
Getting straight into it, and already you see a lot of emphasis in the mid lane. Wave pressure is also a big factor, especially if you want to be active in the early game. You want to get those pickoffs. It all starts with the lane. If you can push earlier, you can rotate.
Here, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the first game of the upper bracket finals.
It's been a short delay, but here we are. Finally, we are back into the game. Thanks for waiting, ladies and gentlemen. As we can see right now, both teams still being very, very aggressive. And as predicted, the mid lane, there's just so much action here, and Psycuts wants a part of the action.
Whew. Well, we'll see once again. Again, very sorry for the short delay. There was reports of an earthquake here in Indonesia. So we are going to be resuming. Again, we were just making sure nothing was going on. Everything's all safe to go.
Safety is #1 priority.
Exactly, but now you can already see a very aggressive movement from the side of Dreams. Going to be taken down by Impunity, this roster from Cambodia. Team Cambodia strikes first in game number 1 with first blood.
The Kadira, man, is just so dangerous. And the playmaking is just very subtle. The spells from this Kadira isn't exactly that flashy, so you really need to pay attention. Otherwise, Deja is going to have a great time here, and he is on that mid lane Kadira, so that's a lot more damage to think about.
Here early on, you can already see as well that Brands is having a bit of trouble here, even though he is actually utilizing that turret really well to get the favorable trade up against the 1-1. This matchup, though, I do want to talk a little bit about it. The turtle has spawned in Arashi, who has the lead here, who has the advantage.
I think it's quite balanced, but Cambodia, they have a lot more tools to begin fights, so I think the Indonesians need to be very, very careful, and now it begins.
Numenal Blast comes in, and that's going to be taken down. The Petrify as well with the final blow as the backline will be targeted by Boom. Hijime with the flicker to get out to safety, but that's the retribution by Taz as he goes absolutely massive, dealing a whole lot of damage, picking up a kill as well. Boom melted down, forced the flicker out, and Indonesia comes back, secures the turtle, and 2 kills.
I wish I can say I was surprised, but look at how oppressive this Joy is. A lot of damage, a lot of survivability. At the end of the fight, Taz had almost half his HP bar worth of shields, and that is something that in this early game Cambodia cannot deal with. They simply just don't have the items, the damage to deal with it. And this is why it's so annoying to have this Joy on the opposing side, and they need to be more proactive here, because if Indonesia are the ones engaging the fight, like now you can see, it's just very, very dangerous, and they are risking getting picked off.
The rhythm of Joy and the electrifying beats, it does so much damage. It's
nasty combo.
Nasty combo, and on top of that, nasty mobility. He is untargetable practically when she is using that rhythm of Joy. But
5 jumps essentially, I think.
Yeah, 4 to 5 jumps. If you keep on resetting it, if you play with the rhythm as well, you deal more damage with the passive. But there is another pause, it seems, that is back to the game, as the game has been resumed by Cambodia and Indonesia. Again, 3 minutes in, there is a 1,000 gold lead currently for Indonesia. Both teams are playing it relatively passive here, as Taz jumps in once again with the rhythm of Joy. Jumps in as well, using the electrifying beats. Doesn't get the gold buff, though.
That's a fancy beat actually that comes up when you use that ultimate. But Taz is just all across the map, trying to get the ganks up, getting that farm as well. I think the mid game is where both teams have the resources to try and start just turning up the aggression and starting to attempt to at least snowball, or maybe perhaps just get objective advantages, because both teams have shown that they have that macro knowledge. And I think with that, that makes the team fights just that much trickier, depending on what neutral objective is on the map.
Good read by Brands here, as we mentioned. Strong side towards that gold lane for Cambodia. Taz again with the rhythm of Joy, just being such a nuisance. Lutu still able to get out on the Martis anti-CC, but it is just going to be Indonesia who takes the turtle for free, as Cambodia has opted to actually play around that gold lane. Opie finding a solo kill up against Brands. And T and Deja are waiting patiently for Taz to step in. He jumps in, gets caught in Divine Judgment, and that's the burst we mentioned, Arashi. The Petrify as well, but Taz is still able to survive. Jumps in with the rhythm of Joy once, twice, 3 times, and that's the 4th with the electrifying beats, dealing as much damage as possible. Deja gets taken out by Dreams. So much shielding for the Joy, Arashi.
Taz on the Joy. Yes, there's a lot of shielding here, but even before that, in the initial CC lock, he was just able to survive from that without a vengeance. So that is very interesting. I really thought that it was over for him right there, but he was able to survive with a sliver of HP, and that is all you need on this hero. You need to seal the deal before there's any counterplay. Otherwise, it's an absolute disaster. And for Cambodia, now they're on the back foot for sure. Indonesia will try and use this lead, this control, and get those nasty pickouts of their own, or even a big combo, unless Cambodia can do something surprising, like the trap in the purple buff. It was a very great attempt.
6 minutes in now, it's still a 1,000 gold lead. I feel like Cambodia, even though they've been behind, they've been losing a lot in these skirmishes, they're still keeping a level head. They're really farming well, and they're trying their best to minimize that gold lead. Meanwhile, Boom actually gets a solo kill on Psychots. Deja will fall as well. It's a 1-for-1 as Taz is looking for an engage. It's the conceal by T to help his gold laner Opie get out. Dreams, though, going to be brought back for Divine Judgment. That's the shield coming up, and that's going to be Opie who's looking for all the shield. That's the crossbow tang popped up. It's going to be Dreams who gets taken down, but it's going to be traded back in as Opie will fall to the hands of Brands. That's, again, Taz doing so much damage with the electrifying beats. Popping that sick beat, my man.
On the sick beat, but losing the mid turret in the process. That is a very good rotation from Lutu. But you can see that the rotation game very much favors Indonesia. They're always one step ahead due to that wave clear advantage. But somehow, some way, Cambodia, they've been staying in their lanes, and eventually they are having a turret advantage. Although now, Indonesia has a chance to actually use that time to go for the neutral objectives.
Cambodia are so good at looking for these crazy pickoffs almost everywhere on the map. But they're opting, again, to put most of their resources to play around Opie. 2-0 stat line currently. Still the same stat line as Brands, but again, they are already getting that push control around the topside river. Indonesia rotating with a similar pattern towards that top side. Lutu trying his best to just open up the map, and both teams will not decide to go in just yet.
Ooh, they go in for the gold buff though, but it seems to be just a small trade going on, unless Dreams goes into the bush.
Uh-oh, that's going to be Dreams. A lot of resources placed onto him. He soaks in every single damage from the crossbow attack, and that's going to be Taz caught very low. Still able to dash in with the Rhythm of Joy. That's Brands actually locking Lutu in place with his go away. Lutu finding the kill, but will fall as well to the hands of Taz, who picks up a double. Psychots now onto T, who has the Divine Judgment, will be able to pull him back into the turret. Now Boom, with Bravest Fighter, is able to dish out some damage, but Psychots gets out with relative ease on that Benedetta.
Cambodia is getting some kills on the board, but they're allowing Taz to start to snowball, man. He is 3-0 right now. He has that Genius one, and he has built the Oracle very early on. It means less damage for him, but it also means that Deja as well as Tai cannot actually burst him down as reliably as they would like, and it's only going to get worse from here on out. He is already very tanky, and with the steel leg plates, that is some very efficient itemization to ensure that the damage from OP as well as Lutu and Boom can be mitigated as well.
Here, again, it feels like Cambodia.
Sheesh! Sorry, my bad.
It's okay. There's also a Kalas right there from Dream, so both teams just having fun, right? Even though they're competing here in the upper bracket finals for the grand final spot, it's great to see that both teams are still enjoying their time in the Land of Dawn. Cambodia, though, however, are 3,000 gold behind of Indonesia. This will definitely impact their next few fights if they do decide to commit and fight, contest, instead of trading. Boom has already started his rotation down to that top side. Deja going to be able to catch Psychots with the Petrify. Suppression as well with Divine Judgment. Taz wreaking havoc with the Rhythm of Joy. That's the Nunan Blast placed in as well. Popped in. T going to be caught, but it's only the Roamer taken down for the XP lane. Lutu and Boom still relatively untouched. He gets the stun onto two members, but the real world manipulation is still there. Taz again jumping, weaving everywhere. Has the electrifying beats, but will not choose to use it just yet. They'll choose to go for the Lord now. 1 for 1, it still stands, but it's still Indonesia with more control.
Indonesia has more control, and they are trying to use it to bait in more kills. Lutu goes in 1v3, but he will be forced to back away, and Indonesia is not risking any 50-50 in this Retribution battle. They're waiting for the right moment, and they have a structure taken on the other side of the map just for good measure. Now, with Hijumi having a glowing wand, the poke damage is going to get very, very much worse for the side of Cambodia, and that will pressure them into making these reckless engages, and perhaps that will allow Indonesia to punish it even more. As you can see, Cambodia very intent on getting this Lord.
Top lane, tier 1 going to be target T, looking for that Divine Judgment, but a perfectly placed go away is there. Taz, again with the Rhythm of Joy, soaking in so much damage, but will be caught in the Petrify. That's a shutdown over to OP, who's going massive now. Has the crossbow tang, just one more weakness point onto Dreams. But OP gets poked back. Falling back now, Dreams is looking for it. Psychots with a Petrify onto 2 and the final blow finds OP. It's absolutely amazing for Psychots with the crossbow tank given over to OP, who's still able to convert it onto Dreams. 2 members falling once again. Cambodia have risen again. It's a 3 for 1.
It's a 3-for-1, an absolute disaster for Indonesia. Taz got shut down by none other than OP, and that's a huge gold swing as the Indonesians go in for another fight.
Brands trying to do what he can here. He's going for the steal, but will not be able to find it. The go away and the Wind of Nature popped in, but he's going to be petrified. And you can't Wind of Nature. The damage from that Kadita magic penetrating through, and Brands taken off the board.
That's a 2v5 essentially for the Indonesians. Very, very reckless. And it seems like they're losing control in this game right now. They certainly are not expecting the difficulty for Taz to actually take control of that game. We questioned if Cambodia has a solution, has something in the pocket. That is what they're showing right now. With the Lord pushing in, Cambodia goes for the jungle control as well, and the Indonesians are struggling to keep up.
Taz, he needs to be a bit more disciplined with that Rhythm of Joy. Last time he jumped in and got caught in the Divine Judgment. That led to Cambodia getting a good fight. Conceal play. T flickering forward, not getting anyone, but that's going to be the Joy. Targeted down. Taz out instantly now as Lutu is able to disengage. A good stun from Boom to once again help the rest of the members to back off. It's another 1 for 0, Rashi. And Cambodia, it feels like they're one step ahead.
It seems like now that Joy pick is actually harming the chances of Indonesia because Taz keeps going in, and overestimating the flexibility, the power of this Joy, and Cambodia is absolutely punishing it. If they take it slow, Brands as well as Hijume has enough damage to start poking around, to pressure the members of Cambodia. There's a lot of physical defense being built, but Hijume with the glowing ones ready right now can actually poke them down before Taz goes in to secure those kills. So I think they have to be more synergized in how they want to approach these fights, because right now, it seems like it's very disconnected. We're seeing a lot of fights from Indonesia without the whole team, the 5 members at the same time.
Ooh. Cambodia. We questioned their decision not to ban the Joy, but right now it's working to their favor as T opens up the map, forcing Dreams to back off. Indonesia zoned away from their own jungle as the orange buff will be claimed by Cambodia again. It feels so tough for Indonesia currently because Cambodia have such a good kite back composition. They can kite back, they can even engage now. And that's what we mentioned earlier, right? This pick style of composition that Cambodia opted to go for and kept on building towards. It really is looking super strong right now.
Especially because early on, Indonesia has their own pressure, so Cambodia cannot synergize, cannot set up for these big ambushes. But now with the tides turned, with the gold lead in the hands of the Cambodians, they are all over the jungle of the Indonesians. The Magic Sentry will expose them for now, as Brands has picked up this Demon Hunter sword, allowing him to maybe be a bigger threat towards the tankier members.
Ooh, that was such a risky move by Taz. Man, he dashed towards T on the Kaja. But he knows exactly what's going to happen there. He knows that T won't be in range after he uses the Rhythm of Joy. But it's just pretty stressful for me to watch.
Again, very aggressive moves. That's not quite necessary for Taz, so maybe this is just his character, his killer instinct, his mechanical skill wanting to be used, but now Psychos is being targeted.
Uh-oh, Psychos gonna be caught, doesn't get the eye for an eye, but he gets the Petrify. Now the final blow as well, caught! No crossbow tang used just yet. Indonesia decided to look for a trade here on the Lord. Look for Retribution. Taz gets it, but he's going to be caught there. Brands with a brilliant disengage. Crossbow tang still ready. Opie pops it in. Winter Truncheon by Taz now. Caught in the midst of it all. Jumps in. Back and forth once again. Taz gets out. It's a good trade. Psychots traded in for the Lord for Indonesia to stay in this game.
Wow, that mobility, man, is just so tough to deal with. Cambodia, with 4 members, were unable to get that pickoff onto Taz, and now Hijume has built a Winter Truncheon as well, so the dive is just less effective.
Uh-oh, Dreams caught Taz doing so much damage. Taz is absolutely a monster here. He's still able to survive, buying so much time, and it's a 1-for-0, 1-for-1 here. Everybody's low, 2-for-1, as that's a kill taken by Brands. 2 members low from Cambodia. The Enhanced Lord marching top. And it does seem like we're going to get a replay here, Arashi. What happened in this team fight?
Cambodia going for the aggression, crowded around together, and the AoE coming in from Hijume is something that they are not taking into consideration. What? They get very, very low, but now another fight is breaking up in the bottom, in the actual real game time.
Hijume, apparently, a bit too aggressive, overstepping his boundaries there in the enemy jungle. But it's all good for Indonesia still. Even though they lost Hijume, they were able to find a few trades on the board. Tier 2 in the top lane, mid lane, and even in the bottom lane, equalizing the turrets here for themselves. But the Tier 2 hasn't fallen in that bottom lane just yet.
I'm questioning a bit how the Winter Truncheon is the option that Hijume is building for, because I think even if he does survive with the Winter Truncheon, that means that the whole roster of Cambodia will be on him when he gets out of it. I thought he would opt for something a bit more kite orientated, but now he has that double wand combo along with the Divine Glaive. That's more than enough damage, and he will be one of the main targets for the side of Cambodia. But keep in mind, Cambodia are just stacking up that magic resistance. 2 Radiant Armors already built, Oracle for Boom as well. That will mean that the bulk of the damage will need to come from Brands and Psychots. We'll have to see, can that win condition be completed, achieved by the Indonesians?
Well, they're already popping that Conceal. Dreams looking for the plays, opens up the map. T there, doesn't choose to go for the Divine Judgment just yet. Deja gets out with the Odyssey. Ludu still soaking in a lot. Opie, Psychots trying his best to look for it. Psychots tries to cut the wave there, but it's not going to be able to happen. T gets a Divine Judgment, but Psychots once again is going to be able to jump in. Winter Nature popped in by Opie, who's going to be massive here. Has a lot of room to play with. Boom jumps in. Brands gets stunned, but has the Winter Nature. Opie still in the back line, still hitting. Has it, having the crossbow tang. Will try his best to look for all the weakness points, but it's going to be reset once again as Taz finds it shutdown onto Lutu. Cambodia on the back foot. 2 members alive.
for Indonesia is just Psychots who gets taken down. OP once again trying to make the miracle play happen as he looks for the crossbow attack. He finds it. Dreams gonna be taken down. Taz as well, but a winner question is there for Taz. Didn't know last, but OP is still kiting, still saving Cambodia from getting the amazing defense.
Boom, now chasing for a kill. Real manipulation is being popped, but the OP will be there to zone them all away. And this is the story of the game right now. If Indonesia can get pickups of their own, they have an advantage. Let's take a look at that replay once again. Cambodia going in aggressively, but then being counter-engaged, and Psychots and Taz diving towards the backline, zones everyone away until Boom comes in, and OP realizes there's a chance here. He goes back in for the outplay, gets that crossbow of Tang, and that is how dangerous Cambodia is, even on the back foot.
Oh my god, that was a 2v4, and OP continues to surprise us from last 2021 MSC to now. They're able to find the Lord because of that play, that defense that went so well for them. They punished Indonesia all on the back of OP in the late game. Even up against Dreams, when he popped that shield, he was able to maneuver away behind the shield.
This is why this composition is so dangerous. Every single member, every single hero on the side of Cambodia can make the plays happen. Whereas for Indonesia, it's about unity. It's about synergy, playing as 5, because otherwise, alone, the Yves, the Lolita, the Melissa, they cannot make these plays happen alone. Even Taz right now is being completely countered. They need to play around each other and get that united team fight to get that victory.
18 minutes in, this is still an enhanced Lord though that Cambodia took. They couldn't risk waiting for that 18-minute mark for the evolved Lord to spawn. It's them now trying their best to micromanage the waves. Taz, very risky play again, walking in front of that Kaja. T's been absolutely solid with his Divine Judgments. Both teams are opting to play it still very slow, building those waves up for Cambodia to crash and siege.
Not to mention, T has the flicker, so beware of that flicker Divine Judgment combo. But here we go, Cambodia sieging away, and look at T.
T looking for it now, gonna get stunned up. Not able to find a Divine Judgment. That's the Petrify onto one member. Deja is the only one caught there. The real world manipulation instantly cancelled out, and Indonesia opts to clear out the Enhanced Lord first. Bottom lane gonna be targeted here. That's gonna be an amazing winner instruction by Hijime to escape from the Divine Judgment threat. Lumina Blast now onto one member. It was dodged away by Lutu and Boom, who's now caught in the base. Immortality still available. 1 for 0 right now for Cambodia. Boom getting out. Taz jumping in, looking for some damage. Not able to connect on the second Rhythm of Joy, and Cambodia will try their best to look for another push.
Hijime has the Holy Crystal, so that's a lot of damage. He is the main wave tier 2 right now, but Psychos goes in.
Final blow used up. Deja gonna be caught there, but still is able to run away with the oddity. Psychos gonna be taken down. The crossbow tang massive. OP is absolutely overpowered. The real world manipulation and desperation. Boom gonna be caught. Immortality's popped in. Lutu looks for the base, and Cambodia gets the first game in the series. Another massive victory for Cambodia.
We said Joy was OP. We said the team that has Joy will win the game for sure. Cambodia says no. That is not the case at all. We have the answer. They just completely shut Taz down. The mechanical genius cannot show his skill. That is props to Cambodia, man.
We all thought Joy was unbeatable. Cambodia definitely showed that Joy was unbeatable in their game against Malaysia. To do this up against Indonesia, a team that haven't lost a single game in IESF so far, when you give them Joy, the unlosable, quote-unquote, character. Cambodia right now are on a different level, and this just spices up the tournament even more. The tournament favorites all might be going down to the lower brackets.
That is insane, man. You have to question right now, is the Joy pick something that the Indonesians were not ready to utilize, right? Because it does seem like Taz occasionally, as you mentioned, Mirko, misses some of the rhythm, some of the hops as well, comes in at real unfortunate moments. So we'll have to see if the same strategy gets applied. But looking at the highlights, the early game is just absolutely chaotic, and this is how we like it. Both teams wanting to be aggressive. Indonesia, even though they don't have a lot of pickoffs, they are willing to take the fight to Cambodia, and Cambodia are just so happy to oblige. They go in with those pickoffs. They make so many good setups, hiding in the bushes, hiding in plain sight even, and they are able to get a lot of moments catching Indonesia off guard And even though in the late game it got kind of close, even though on paper Cambodia was not supposed to win in that late game, in those big team fights, they find a way to make it work. They utilize the objective gameplay as well, and they're showing again, even though we're not the favorites, we are a top tier contender. Take us seriously or pay the price.
OP did so much for the team here. You could see, but the entire team played around him so well in this game. OP was behind early on. You could see that he was taken down twice here in the 9th minute mark. Indonesia seemed to have control, but in the mid-game, it all changed after one team fight. And that's the Lord fight right here that you see. Psychots got an amazing flank, but OP. When you try to flank him, it seems like it's always going to be turned around. He's always positioned so well in these team fights, but he's not too far back. He's always in a position where he can hit, but he can't be hit by the enemy team. There was another moment in this match where it turned around back to Indonesia's favor. And here, this was the moment where OP outplayed Indonesia. It was a 2v4 situation with Boom dying right here. I thought it was over at this point with 4 members marching down the base. Tell us what happened here, Arashi. Dissect it for us.
I think Indonesia got a bit of advantage here. They thought that it was over, like you mentioned, Mirko, but it did not put into consideration the fact that there are so many playmaking tools in the hands of the Cambodians, and they paid the price. They could very easily back away, use the Lord, maintain that discipline we've been talking about, and slowly but surely strangle the Cambodians. But that is not what they did. They got overzealous. They figured that they can take the fight to them, and they paid the price, as we mentioned already. So Indonesia right now needs to decide how they want to do this, because for Cambodia, they have a solid plan. They have solid workarounds for all the issues that Indonesia has been throwing at them, and the match MVP is going to be OP from Cambodia. Absolutely OP with over 100,000 damage and 73,000 damage taken as well, by the way. That's a marksman. Excuse me?
Takes damage, does damage, has a good score, farms up, and even solo killed Brands early on.
Yes.
8-2 and 7. I think there's no doubt as to who got that MVP, the man who saved Cambodia many times in the late stage. But in the early game, we gotta give a player spotlight over to T. Because if OP carried in the late game, it was all due to T, again, protecting him, using the Divine Judgment more so as a cover tool, as a tool to peel for OP instead of engaging.
Exactly. The security, the protection is as important as the engage tools. He was also responsible for shutting down the snowball of tasks in that early game. Now we take a look at a bit of the items. And of course, OP has a full inventory slot. Brands does too, however. Unfortunately, Brands in the final fights, he was always targeted. And we talked about this. The Aerithel would have countered the 1-1, would have been more mobile, more secure than the Melissa, and Brands paid the price because everyone was absolutely gunning for his life in this game. And look at all the damage items. It's by all means quite late into the game, so you cannot survive long at all. And the only real protection he has was Dreams on the Lolita, who occasionally still tries and goes aggressive with the Numenon Blast. So like I said, Indonesia needs to work out a proper team fight plan, because otherwise, if they don't have
To come over. You know, Merusaka Nusa Dua. This is where IESF is being held, and it's an offline event that's going to go all the way till the 11th of December. So there's still a lot of days if you guys want to come to visit. Here, though, we are going to jump into the draft for game number 2. Cambodia on the blue side. This time, Indonesia. Oh, man, you can see it. Phobia's ban. It's a setup for the Joy. Indonesia bans the Joy instantly. All right. You could see. You can see. Cambodia knows how to counter it, knows how to play it. Take it out, man.
interesting options, and Cambodia, they don't want to let Taz have his signature hero as well, so the Fanny will be banned away. And now you're wondering, what is the approach? Because Indonesia tried that front to back, that team fight approach. It wasn't working so well, and maybe they just are suited right now to go for something a lot more aggressive, a bit more of a dive comp, because we saw that Psychots, right, in the right composition with that Yutsong, moving forward, he seems to be in a lot more control compared to this more defensive style. So we'll have to see. Diggy has been banned out, so they have the chance to also have that heavy crowd control, heavy-handed approach. But for Cambodia right now, I think they might be looking towards that Kaja once again. Very flexible with the wave clear, with the pickoff potential as well.
Fanny ban coming in from Cambodia. Still, though, even after winning Game 1, they are respecting Indonesia's prio picks, comfort picks. The Diggy will be banned out. Similarly to Game number 1 by Indonesia. Leomord is still up for grabs, but the 1-1 now is actually going to be banned out by Cambodia, who has the first pick on the blue side. Technically forcing Indonesia to choose between the the Kaja or the Valentina.
Or the Martis, or
Leomord.
all the heroes available right now.
But
It's
I think
all
for
so
first pick
situational.
prio, it's mostly still just Valentina Kaja. For this case, because of all the other heroes banned.
I must say, again, with the players being so mechanically gifted, I think having that suppression is just so much more valuable than the other aspects, the other attributes available from these other heroes. So I think I agree, Valentina and Kaja will be important, but will Indonesia ban one of these options, or will they let both open so they can pick one for themselves? It's going to be the Kaja banned out, so Cambodia, no joy.
No Joy, no Kaja, no Diggy. Valentina still in the fray for them to pick up. If it's not the Valentina, though, Leomord, Martis. I think right now, Leomord. Ooh, Leomord. I was expecting the Valentina, actually, to be picked up here, but it does seem like Cambodia wants to put Lutu on, to put this Leomord on Lutu in the jungle.
For Indonesia, I guess it will be that Valentina. It really makes sense. No, going up against a Leomord, fighters like this, Valentina has a lot of utility and damage available as well. And we keep talking about this, but wave control, wave pressure. Indonesia were able to actually abuse it so much in game number 1. Unfortunately, maybe not enough. Maybe they didn't play the late game team fights correct. But the early game, we can see that Indonesia were the ones aggressing, were the ones having momentum. So I think they will have a lot of emphasis in that wave clear department as well. Beatrix can be an option, Valentina as well.
Beatrix Benedetta certainly can be the option to go for here. Valentina, like we mentioned earlier. But Indonesia, usually, if we take a look at their previous games, the Lolita, the Benedetta.
Wow, okay.
Oh, okay, so it's a different approach, yeah. Usually we see the Fanny, the Kaja, the Beatrix always being the prio for Indonesia, but because a lot of those heroes were banned out, they decide to go for the Yu Zhong, a signature pick for Psychots in this tournament so far. Cambodia picking up the Angela with no hesitation. They want to try to play around this Leomord, and honestly, yeah, Angela works, especially with that new Aspirant skin, Arashi.
It's a very, very cool skin. And we've seen, I think, other teams, other countries ban this Angela against Cambodia. So maybe this is exactly what we've been missing out on from Cambodia. We'll have to see, though. Indonesia, understanding that OP is usually just very oppressive, pun fully intended. They go for Psychots on the Yu Zhong, which has been a very good solution to these hyper carries in the back line. They still go for that Yi for the utility. And now Cambodia with the Cult Altar, though. That means that they're going to be clumping up quite a bit. Maybe Indonesia can set up for some kind of combo.
Fairness, Angela, Leomord, very heavy dive comp here, and Indonesia need to pick up a hero that can really withstand this kind of dive or can counter the dive, right? The Fredrin becomes a solid option here, but we've already seen the Yu Zhong picked up earlier on.
Jungle?
I've never seen Taz play the Fredrin in the jungle, but the Akai is another solid option, another good disengage. We've seen Taz play that one in the second game against Philippines, and it will be locked in for Indonesia. That's the Akai in the jungle, but it can also technically still be flexed into the roaming position.
Ooh, Roma Akai, though, against an Angela. Obviously, Cambodia, I think they will rely more on the laners to be aggressive and have the Angela as more of a support, so Indonesia can get more value, more aggression in the early game. But now we're down to the second banning phase. What will Indonesia try and ban away? Because crowd control is definitely necessary for Cambodia to make this composition happen. The Lapu Lapu is banned away. We saw that Boom was able to use it to maximum effect, enabling Oppi, giving him a lot of space in those big team fights. And now for Cambodia, they themselves would want to try and deny perhaps the DPS that can melt through their very tanky composition.
Indonesia are setting themselves up pretty well with the bans here. They noticed that, again, Cambodia really likes to play around these dive-centric compositions. Taking away the Lapu is a solid option, but that's the Atlas ban as well from Cambodia. Just again, trying to nullify the threat that Dreams has We all know on these crazy, flashy heroes, Dreams really likes to pop off. But right now, honestly, for the roaming position, for the roamer, I'd actually like if I'm Indonesia right now, I think I'm hovering over the Mathilda, right? You need a little bit more utility. It's an amazing hero with utility. It can also be synergized well. It actually synergizes well with the Akai as well, right? You can pin people down with the help of the Circling Eagle when you are in that heavy spin position, when you have that ability active.
Well, I wonder if the Kadita is going to be banned away. Because for Cambodia, I think it's a very solid option. But of course, already heroes in that role, so it won't be there. And I don't know if Indonesia will be willing to use it, maybe defensively. They ban away that Masha, though, and Franco is the ban from Cambodia. I find it quite peculiar, honestly, the Franco ban. Because I think Indonesia with the Franco is going to be a pretty weird composition, right? You're hooking people closer to your team when you want to get away from them. Maybe they're afraid of that buff denial, you know, the early game pickoffs for Indonesia to start snowballing. But now we're down to the final 4 picks for both these teams. Indonesia for sure will require some DPS.
I think it's also because of just that suppression that he has in the Bloody Hunt. Becomes such a good cover peel utility tool for Indonesia. But now with the banning session done, both the first phase and the second phase, Indonesia will look to go for the first pick, which is still going to be that Melissa. This time, I actually like this pick a bit better than last time, right? You're up against a Leo Moore. The go away can have a little bit more use here, especially with the peel already there, ready with the Kai.
Not to mention there's Psychots on the Yuzong as well. The Furious Dive can be used defensively if it's necessary, so we'll have to see. I think we have to wait on that final pick. Is it going to be more aggression, more defensive? But for Cambodia right now, they require Golden of their own. It might be an Irithel. Works well with the dive nature, the movement speed forward from Cambodia. And if it takes high loss as well, that is a big slow, a big front line, a solid stun as well. So moving with speed here from Cambodia, maybe relying a bit on the Angela slow as well to try and catch the members of Indonesia off guard.
Well, you know, we've always asked how to counter the utility from Yves, maybe with more movement speed, right? There's a lot of sprints there. With the Irithel being so mobile, there's a Leomord, a Faramis as well, and the Hylos. This is a movement speed composition. Indonesia might actually find it very difficult to lock people down with this kind of composition. They're going to lean heavily on, again, that Petrify from Psychots. But we saw, even in game number 1, with the Benedetta Petrify, Cambodia splits up really well before that flank to prevent that from happening. Indonesia with the final pick here, they need a
Roamer. Unless the Akai goes into that roaming position, which is, you know, can work, but not really. And we mentioned the Kadita. Dreams on this Kadita is very, very dangerous, but we'll have to see. It's a mixed bag from Indonesia. Some kite back, some engage, some pick off, some team fight. Whereas for Cambodia, it's full metal, pedal to the metal. They want to go all the way in and take out Indonesia.
Oh, man. Indonesia with the Kadita, they're basically trying to limit that move speed. They're trying to limit that mobility from Cambodia with another Petrify. Another CC lock hero that we just mentioned earlier. That's basically the tools for Indonesia to win. That's their win condition. If they can actually burst someone down, petrify them, stun them up for the rest of the members to follow up, it's going to be a good day, a good game for Indonesia. But if Cambodia somehow are able to maneuver around that or to split up so that only one member or at most 2 of the front lines gets caught in the Petrify, then honestly, Cambodia has a chance to actually 2-0 Indonesia. I think it comes down again to the execution this time.
I think having a combination of the Yuzong and the Kadita, we've seen something similar from Indonesia when they're up against a very solid gold laner. Someone to dive and threaten the gold laner, and someone to just completely annihilate him with like an assassin pick. So I think Kadita can serve that purpose, but now we're straight back into the Land of Dawn, Mirko.
Well, once again, ladies and gentlemen, we're jumping into the Land of Dawn, where Indonesia is trying to equalize, and Cambodia are trying to secure the grand final position, with Dreams already very aggressively moving into the enemy jungle, taking a whole lot of damage here as Danger rotates as well. It's first blood before the first minute of the game. Cambodia are on fire.
bit of a disaster trying to get information on a Kadita. Very, very squishy. Yes, you have the blessing of the ocean, but you need to survive for that to actually work out. And by the way, speaking of security, 3 purifies on the side of Cambodia.
Man.
They are not having any crowd control issues whatsoever. They want to be able to do whatever they want, and they have enough mobility to make that happen without those sprints. So the purifies will mean that Indonesia needs to be very wise in how they want to use these skills.
Oh, T still able to get out. Going to be taken down by Hijume. That's a trade back on the board. Both the roamers already falling here early in the game. But I do feel like, again, in terms of that mid-control, this Yves with the Kadita will definitely have a bit of an edge. Clearing out the waves a bit faster to rotate and to provide more help across the side lanes.
If they roam S3 along with Taz on the Akai, they actually have more advantage, but look at this dive.
Oh, Lutsu, too aggressive. Gonna be taken down, punished, and that's the real world manipulation as well. A very aggressive play from Cambodia, but this time it might be too aggressive as Taz jumps in with a heavy spin, instantly knowing where Boom is. The Furious dive as well from Psychox to pick up the kill and to take the lead in game 2.
They have the pressure, and now they can go for the turtle, because for Cambodia, this Faramis can save some of their members from the big burst damage, but hang on, as we say that though, that is Deja picking up a kill onto Psychox. Definitely not what Indonesia wants, but there we go. Turtle secured for Indonesia in minute number 2.
It's still just a very slow game now that the action has happened early on, Arashi. Both teams will be waiting for the neutral objectives. They don't really want to go for anything too crazy, but just as I say it, Lutsu will be caught for the 2nd time in this game. And this time it's by Dreams, who's taking it a bit personally, that first kill. And you can see as well, Brand's just having a good time on that Melissa against the Irith though. Breath of Ocean popped in, OP going to be sandwiched by Indonesia. The real world manipulation as well, forcing OP to use that ultimate to get out of the range. It's still OP who can survive, who can still get out, but look at the waves. Very disadvantageous for Cambodia. It's pushing in towards Indonesia, and Brands is just letting it push.
Wave clear advantage for Indonesia and fight skirmish advantage for Cambodia, unless, as we talked about, Dreams can actually start having that pick-off gameplay. He was able to delete Lutu, who is a fighter in the early game, so that definitely is not what Cambodia wants. They are grouping at the bottom side though. There might be a big fight building up here, as they're just waiting there, trying to counter-engage on the possible dive towards OP. This is what you come to expect. They want to make sure that OP does not get shut down. He is the main win condition.
But here, so far, Brands has been able to find a whole lot of success in the lane, getting a whole lot of gold. And with the help of Hijume right here, with that real-world manipulation constantly, it's just so difficult. And you can see as well the rotations from the XP laner, opting to actually leave that XP lane. Dream spotted out by T, and Psychots even cancelled that recall. Got cancelled by T. Hylos having a better time in that XP lane again, just soaking in as much gold as possible, while Taz is actually going to be the one gifted the job to handle or to match up against that Hylos.
Brands now has secured the bulk of that, well, almost the whole thing, the whole turret gold, and with that momentum, Indonesia rotates their top side at the opportune moment, going for the turtle, but there might be a fight here because they are backing away.
Oh, that's a very good engage again by Dreams. Lutu taken off, and that's Taz who secures the turtle. Deja all alone pops the cold ulcer to survive, but a pin down from Taz is there. Deja with the Purify still able to get out with the real world inflation, will be able to lock him down for the kill to be handed over to Hijume.
The pickoff game from Dreams, man, this is what we've come to expect. It's dangerous and it needs to be respected, but Brands will be taken out. OP is actually getting a bit more momentum back here, and Indonesia might want to just try and funnel a bit more attention because it's going well so far. Why stop here?
Yeah, 3,000 gold lead already. Taz also was able to steal away the purple buff. Now, Lutu is 2 levels behind of Taz on a hero that you would really optimally want to go to snowball early on, right? You want to get as much as possible on this Leomord. And if you get to that later stage, you are going to fall off pretty badly, actually.
Well, Dreams right now, though, already having the Clock of Destiny scaling towards that late game. Hijume with the Ice Queen's Wand will mean that for Cambodia, escape is going to be a very difficult situation as OP again is the target.
So much damage with the pin as well. The Purify comes in to save OP for a bit with a hard guard, but he is going to be taken down by Brands. with the
Ooh.
dolls. Deja with the cold altar getting out. Brands just securing that tier 1 down below and moving back. Indonesia now invading the enemy jungle, and Lutu has no say whatsoever to what's happening in his jungle. Taz is now 3 levels ahead. Psychots is zoning Lutu away, has a black dragon form to get out as Taz jumps in, gets the damage down as Dreams, looks for the follow-up now. Tier 1 gonna be taken down in the mid lane. Boom, still having the glorious pathway, can get out. And Indonesia decides to play the disciplined game this time, backing off, not overextending as they did in game 1.
If Indonesia maintains this discipline and plays with that vision, they have so many tools to start off that pick-off gameplay. And for now, at least until later on in the game, the members from Cambodia are going to be way too squishy to push into a Yves, a Kadita, as well as a Yu Zhong. This early game is very strong from Indonesia, and they are completely abusing it to go for the purple buff, it seems, right now, because Boom is taken very low with the real manipulation, almost taken out, flickers away, and I think Indonesia will be able to secure this purple buff. That's a sad day for Lutu on the Cambodian side.
The gold lead is just building again, slowly but surely, towards Indonesia as they are suffocating Lutu, especially in this jungle. But the entire Cambodian team is just not having a good time here in the first 7 minutes. You know, Indonesia came back from a similar kind of position here. You can already see again that ambush over Lutu, trying to find some compensation. Dreams with the conceal, still able to jump away. Dreams finally taken down with the Phantom Steed by Lutu. And Psychots might be next, brought back to the team. Has the Furious Dive, now going to be caught still. Serve staining for a bit, but Lutu finds that double kill, putting them on the board. And finally Lutu has found 2 kills here. Finally found some compensation, a way to turn the tides back around.
Gold difference just swinging back here. It was up to 6.5k, I believe. Now down to 5k, more or less. But this is what we talked about for Indonesia. They have the chance to make the plays happen, but the longer it goes, the more it goes towards the mid-game. They need to understand that Cambodia will start grouping up with each other, and they need to make plays as 5 as a top side, though Brands make a play.
Wow, Brands instantly just jumps in. 2v1, doesn't even need the help of Taz. A good read by Brands, and a very good, just honestly, instinct by him, knowing exactly the limits of Melissa and how much he can take. Pops that go away perfectly as Lutu jumps in to knock him back, and Deja's gonna be caught as well here. Pops the Cold Altar for safety, but will just lose that HP bar instantly. With the rough waves popped in and the purple buff targeted, Indonesia have taken the lead back into their hands. That grasp is as strong as ever.
Brands was able to make that play happen and swing momentum back. He is, by the way, 3 levels. Well, not two now, but he was earlier 3 levels ahead of OP, and that shows again the game plan of the Indonesians. Destroy that gold lane, let Brands carry, and shot down OP in one fell swoop. It's working very well so far, but we've seen that Cambodia has been able to come back from the situation. They need to stay disciplined and make sure that they don't leave any window available for Cambodia to get some foot back into the game. And now with that lord taken away, they go straight back into the jungle looking for more victims to pick off.
Here, Indonesia again opening up the side of the map here. Boom, gonna be caught, but Furious Dive has the glorious pathway to escape. That real world manipulation almost took him down, but Indonesia will just pull back. Again, they got the lord, they don't need to go for anything too aggressive. Given the orange buff over to Brands and securing just that lead, backing off, playing it disciplined.
We talked about having different tools of engaging, by the way. Furious Dive Petrify, Breath of the Ocean Petrify, and the Heavy Spin. So many things for the members of Cambodia to watch out for, especially if you're OP. You know that the Indonesians has their eyes on you, and at every moment, someone might come up from the sides. It could be the Kadira, it could be the Akai, the Yuzong, or even that real manipulation to just screw over your chances of having that impact in those team fight, and Indonesia is absolutely abusing it.
Taz finding a good pin down onto Boom with the help of the real world manipulation, but the Cold Altar is placed down there, only for him to get silenced as that's OP again in the back line. It's taken so low, but a passive from Psychots. Brands picks up a mega kill, and it's a 2-4-0. Indonesia in that skirmish finding everything they need to look for the end right now. Deja looking for it. OP gonna be taken very low, taken down by Taz as he jumps forward with Retribution as well. T bursted down, and the base is wide open in 10 minutes. Indonesia equalize.
Wow. All the fighters, all the skirmish capabilities from Cambodia doesn't even matter because Indonesia will outmaneuver them, and in that mid-game, just pick them in that skirmish gameplay. Even the tankiest of members, even the Leomord gets completely destroyed, and Cambodia, they just lost control of that game, and they lost control of that gold lane as well. That is the main idea, the main strategy that the Indonesians were able to apply and shut down Cambodia's chances of success.
Brands on the Melissa, man. Usually we say if it ain't broke, don't fix it. It broke in the first game, and they didn't fix it.
We're going to see a bit of the highlights. In the early game, as you can see, there's a lot of burst damage for the side of Cambodia, but after the initial few moments, it seems like Indonesians found their grip, and especially this early game dive from Cambodia, a bit too aggressive, but that's how they need to be playing it. If they just get complacent and they think that everything's gonna go the same way, Indonesia in that mid game, they have a bit of a steeper power spike, and you can see that even with the Cult Altar, even with the tanks available, even with the Angela, the pick-off gameplay was just way too difficult to deal with, and especially OP on that gold lane without a lot of crowd control to use to protect him. He just gets taken out again and again. And of course, later on, we're going to see that 1v2 where Bronze just out of nowhere goes for the play solo and somehow, some way makes it work. But you can see the crowd control difference, I think, is just the key to victory here, because in game number 1, it seems like with the Divine Judgment, with all the suppressions available from the Cambodian side, they were able to shut down Taz and Brands and take out Indonesia. But now in game number 2, the shoe is on the other foot. With 2 Petrifies, 2 knockups, and even the heavy spin, Cambodia are just caught bewildered. They have no idea which one is going to come first, and before you know it, they have lost all control, and Indonesia pushed towards the base.
Here as well, man, that final fight where Cambodia tried their best to actually play front to back. But where is the front? Decimated by Indonesia. That's how much of a goal lead they got. 10,000 in the end. And you could see the frontliners were just not able to soak in any damage. They got melted down by not just Brands, but Hijume as well, who's opted to go for the utility build.
Keep in mind, usually after, struggling in that fight, OP is there to save the day.
Hold up.
Like the hero that comes in when things are dire. But now, being 3 levels below, how is he supposed to save his team? It just isn't available, and they did not play accordingly. So they need to adjust and find something different, man. But the match MVP is going to be Taz from Indonesia, 1-0 and 6. It seems like he wasn't doing a lot of killing, a lot of pickoffs per se in the early game, but the objective gameplay is absolutely solid, and later on, the threat of that heavy spin is just so good.
Oof. You're right. This guy started it off in the early game, right? The first few kills were from Taz. The turtle takes. Again, I don't think this man has lost a retribution battle.
I think so. Even
He
earlier,
was a mid laner, by the way.
on the Joy.
He was a mid laner.
He was a mid laner. Not anymore.
So, explain to me how.
He's so good at retributions?
Yeah, I mean, he was a jungler back in MDL, but he's had so much time and experience playing as a mid laner. You think with the role swap again,
The layoff.
it would actually impact his performance, but right now it's so solid. Psychots as well, though. Yeah, you gotta give him props, man. On the Yuzong, a lot of people say no Yuzong, no win, but hey, that's a feat. If you can auto win your games on the Yuzong, why not?
Why not? I
Why
mean,
not, Rashi?
there's no reason
Why
not
not?
to. And for Hijume, by the way, he did not go for the Enchanted Talisman because he needs maximum damage. He is not there just to spam out skills and be annoying. He is there to output that damage because they are trying to shut down, to pick off Cambodia. He opts for the Ice Queen's wand directly and then straight for that glowing wand. It's a combination of slow and also every single instance of damage buffed up by the glowing wand, and with so many fighters. Essentially, even the Faramis and then the Hylos as well as the Leomord, when you have a glowing wand, it just does so much more damage against these beefier, higher max HP heroes, and Hijume with this very smart atomization goes all the way. And for Dreams, no Lightning Truncheon, but with the Genius wand, it just has so much synergy with Hijume, and this mix of damage coming in, right? It's so balanced. 1 tank, 2 physical
Came from
damage.
future Arashi. Let's jump into the present as we see Zace and the Indonesian team draft for their side. Indonesia on the blue side, Cambodia on the red side. Remember, the pattern so far in the series is red side 100% win rate.
And I think Cambodia, being from the future here, they're going to have a lot of bans towards planning to get that joy in their hands for sure. They have banned that Fanny away, and for Indonesia, I think for Cambodia actually, they might actually have a lot more priority for that Kadita as well. That was definitely a big tool for Indonesia to gain steam in that early game. Indonesia will ban away that Digi for now. That is something that we've seen again and again. So far, nothing too crazy.
Just the Digi, again, is a standard draft so far, but Indonesia, they're basically taking their Game 1 draft and they're swapping it a bit, right? They're already going for the Digi ban and the Wan ban. The Digi was banned out by Indonesia in Game 1. What's different is that Wan, they're finally respecting it here, not giving it over to Cambodia for free. And Cambodia goes for Fanny. Still, very similar to Game 1. And the Akai, still the same, right? In Game 1, they banned Fanny, Valentina, Akai. So if they go for the Valentina as the last ban, we will have the exact same bans for Cambodia as game numero uno.
Despite being from the future here, I am really very unsure. Will Indonesia pick up that joy? Right? It did not work out in game number 1.
Kaja,
but will
maybe?
they be willing to let it go? Thinking that, okay, we've seen how Cambodia does it. We can do that too. It's not that difficult. Or is it?
I think it's about the setup already for Indonesia, right? The reason the Joy did not work out in game number 1 was, again, because Cambodia were able to find 2 counters to it, the Kaja and the Wan. Indonesia have banned out the Wan this time around and the Kaja, so they're basically saying, Cambodia, now we're forcing you to ban the Joy. If you don't ban the Joy, we can pick the Joy, and you can no longer choose to go for those counters, the Kaja and the Wan. That's exactly what Cambodia do. They read out the situation, but now it does give over to Valentina, or the choice for Indonesia to go for that first pick. Leomord still up for grabs with, again,
Martis as well.
the Martis, so many heroes, the Valentina.
Or the Yeve even, or the Beatrix. There's a lot of options available here. But that was a solid prediction, Mirko. Are you from the future as well?
Maybe.
Perhaps. Ladies and gentlemen, you never know. But what you do know is that Indonesia will have a lot of tell. They're going to be showing a bit of their strategy with this first pick. Is it going to be aggressive? Is it going to be flexed, actually? If they can make it a bit more elusive, I think Cambodia will be a bit, a bit stressed out figuring out what to do here. It will be the Yeve, so that is something that they really, really want. I think they have picked it up for all 3 games.
They have, right? Man, the Heave on the hands of Hijime has been solid, always, right? We saw it almost, again, like you said, every game. Last game, we saw it as well. Hijime just really likes this hero, but Cambodia already instantly picking up that Yuzong, taking it away from Psychot, and picking up the Valentina so that they can actually match that real-world manipulation with their own real-world manipulation with that IMU. Indonesia now back to the drawing board for the drafts. Melissa is a solid choice now up against the Yuzong, right? If you're up against the Yuzong, you can always just use that go away to stop that Furious Dive.
Well,
What other hero comes into mind here up against this comp?
I'm not quite sure, honestly. I mean, if you talk about having impact, the Kadita is still available, and it's a hero that is somewhat signature to Dreams. I mean, he's only been able to use it a few select times because they've been banning or picking it away from him, as far as we've seen. So I'm not sure if he wants to pick it up that early in the game, though. But Leomord and a Masha, perhaps, it is locked in as well. That is a lot of slow compared with 2 very scary fighters just bolting at you. Indonesia, they're trying to go aggressive here, but of course Cambodia has a chance to counter it. This is why it's so difficult. Both teams, they know how to play around each other, but I think Cambodia needs to be very, very concerned about that dive potential onto OP. That is one of the main strategies that allowed Indonesia to get that solid second game. So maybe crowd control, maybe security, safety, peel, whatever you want to call it. They need something to help OP out.
Last pick for Cambodia in the first phase. They need a hero that can be very independent here in these team fights as well, knowing that there's so much dive. Self-peel hero, but they will just go for the Martis first. This will give the, again, chance for both of these countries to start narrowing down that gold lane. With the Melissa banned out, knowing that, again, they already have a Yuzong and now a Martis, 2 heroes that wants to get close. The Melissa is a solid option for the ban. Now Indonesia, honestly looking at it, they might want to get Irithel out of the fray.
Irithel, or maybe a Claude even? It depends. I mean, if they want to just dive in like that, you look at the composition so far, it's 2 fighters that are diving towards you and 1 mage that potentially, right, with the IMU from Deja, can use that long-range artillery. So it's a very similar composition. Now, the final 2 bans might show. Is it going to be the same comp head-to-head, or is it going to be slight differences adjusting, allowing the early game to be different? Indonesia has banned away the Claude, so it's not Cambodia banning it away. So I guess, again, with 2 fighters, with the dive composition looking, I think Claude was a solid option for both these teams.
Yeah, and the Claude also has a blink compared to just the dash, right? So getting out of the real world manipulation is a bit easier with that Claude. The Leslie becomes the ban here, becomes the ban that Cambodia look for. Again, respecting brands, knowing that Leslie was just such a problem for the Philippines last time up against Indonesia when they did get that hero onto their hands. Melissa, Leslie, Claude, and the Wan. There's a lot of gold lane bans, and Indonesia can look to go for another gold lane ban, or they can actually stop there and go for, right now, Roamer, right? They can actually just ban out a Roamer. The Atlas is still up for grabs. Again, they already got rid of the Diggy.
Mathilda?
With this melee style of composition that they have, the Atlas is pretty dangerous to let go.
Well, Indonesia has the first pick, and they have the Diggy banned out as well. Hang on. Cambodia actually has the first pick, right? So they can get the Atlas here.
Or the Ruby.
Or the Ruby. And for Indonesia, I wonder if they're going to look for a gold laner instead, right? Gold laners are being banned left and right. So I think who gets a solid gold laner, they can melt through the majority of these heroes, has a bit of an edge. The Beatrix, as I was about to say, is open. It is in a dangerous spot though, but Cambodia thinks it might just work.
Irithel here becomes the choice for Indonesia. They can also still play something like a Brody, a Clint, or Bruno that so far we have not seen today, but we have seen before in this tournament. And also, we are still waiting on a hero for the roamer position. I think the reason Cambodia went for the Beatrix first was because they know that if they pick the... Well, they know if they let the Atlas open for Indonesia, and Indonesia eventually goes for that pick, Cambodia has the option to just steal that Fatal Links away. Has the Valentina with the IMU to look for these crazy engages with the same ultimate. Giving Indonesia more ultimates to play with will mean that they're giving themselves more ultimates to play with as well. Indonesia, oh, just as I said, that Bruno is going to be hovered over, but the Irithel becomes the wiser choice, the better choice here for Indo. And the Mathilda, like you mentioned, but the Lolita instantly here hovered over, shadow picked by Cambodia. I think it's a very solid choice here, but it's only to counter the Irithel. The dive, not so much. Well, technically, it can be a counter to dive if he finds a good position to get that Nuna Blast.
If they can get control using the Black Dragon form and Martis with the card control immunity, they can then use that control, that vision game, to set up for a huge, massive Numenon Blast. I think that's the idea Cambodia wants to go for, but against an equally aggressive composition from Indonesia. We'll have to see if that actually works out. I think the gold lane, yet again, will be one of the main highlights of this match. Beatrix up against that Irithel, and with a Mathilda against a Lolita as well. In that 2v2, Mirko, who do you think comes out on top?
Mid lane?
No, the gold lane.
The gold lane duo.
Let's say the duo, duo showdown actually comes through.
Well, for the Irithel in this matchup up against the Beatrix, honestly, it comes down to, again, I do feel like it's a bit equal here in the gold lane, even in the duo gold lane here. But the Mathilda does have a bit more of an edge early on with the blooms, so that she can actually help his gold laner win the trades. But ladies and gentlemen, we're going to see if that actually happens here in game number 3. 1-1, the decider is here. Indonesia versus Cambodia for the grand finals of IESF.
My Psychot's on the Masha though. This is quite interesting. We have to see how oppressive exactly can he get with it. But the jungle clear, as we can see, this Leomord is very deadly. And early on in the previous game, we saw that Cambodia was able to secure a kill just using the early base damage. And now Dreams is just trying to be an absolute nuisance, trying to make sure that Lutu takes a longer time clearing or even stealing it away.
Yeah, but Lutu will still be able to clear it out. Has the Demon Slayer as well. You can see that the Leomord Taz is already invading the enemy jungle quite early on, trying to steal away some of the creeps here as Lutu has actually opted to go for the Lethal Wanderer. No mid-control for Indonesia. This might be risky, but Taz gets out in time, getting a level lead on Lutu right now, and proceeds to go over to his own jungle to full clear.
In the early game, it's never big moments for the most part, right? I think it comes down to the smaller exchanges, the small goal differences, and now they're just going aggressively, but ooh, very scary because Dreams was in the wings. And again, it's just a very balanced contest of wave clear and ganking potential, and neither team has had a lead just yet.
Both teams are still playing it a bit passively, right? Both roamers are rotating across the map as well. Not much action on the map in the first minute. Very different from the last game where we saw action instantly, almost right as the game started for both Cambodia and Indonesia. But knowing the stakes right now for Game 3, knowing that one of them are going to lower brackets later on to face either Philippines or Malaysia, they're going to have to play a little bit safer here. Turtle going to be started up. T looking for that opening right now as Lutu is there. That's going to be the Shadow Steed, Phantom Steed. He brings him back. Lutu losing out of the Retribution battle will still be able to survive. That's a Petrify onto Dreams with a Furious Dive as well to pick up first blood. The Turtle for the kill traded in. And this is where I have to ask you, Arashi, who takes that? Who got the better trade?
I think for now, especially since in the mid lane there's a bit more aggression, Cambodia definitely has a bit of an edge. They get the shielding from the Turtle and they go aggressively yet again. Indonesia now needs to be very, very careful. They have tools to protect their carries, but if they let Cambodia gain too much momentum, that is a very dangerous mid-game that they are looking at right now. Especially, as we mentioned, if the Lolita can set up, if T can make those plays happen, that is definitely something that Indonesia wants to avoid in order for them to be able to shut down OP in this bottom side. Brands was taken out, so now it really leans in favor of the Cambodians.
Well, Deja's going to be caught as well, though, in the real world manipulation. Instantly taken down as well with the damage coming in from Taz on that Phantom Steed. It's 1-2 on the scoreboard. Again, that neutral objective did go to the hands of Indonesia as they're looking to use this Phantom Steed towards that top side. Taz has to be careful. Will be able to steal it for a bit, but just decides to back off. Again, both teams, knowing the stakes, will choose to play it a bit more passively here in the third game.
Indonesia has not been having a lot of time to shut down OP. They're moving right now, but you can see that the pressure game is much, much different. Cambodia is actually matching Indonesia in the wave clear department, and that means that Indonesia cannot outmaneuver, at least not as much, the members of the Cambodian side, at least for now. With some items coming in, maybe the difference in skills will actually make that a possibility.
So far, 4 minutes in, again, not much action on the map. It comes down to, the slow games come down to those little wins, Arashi, like you mentioned, to set up for that mid stage, because every little win is going to be building up constantly for both of these teams. And I think both of the teams have been doing a pretty stellar job. Cambodia with more wave control, though, in that gold lane. We'll have a bit more to say around this Turtle. That's a brilliant Numenon Blast, but the Phantom Steed is there to respawn. That's a Black Dragon form as well. Taz trying to steal it, but finally losing out in the Retribution battle, giving it over towards Cambodia. And Taz as well will lose his life. So Cambodia took a 2-for-0.
The 2-for-0, and they didn't even bring side cuts into the equation. He is on the top side. Boom was the only one maneuvering down, and boom, he has made an impact. The Black Dragon form is just so annoying, so oppressive in those objective takes, and Indonesia, they lose out there, but can the advantage side cut is getting in the EXP lane later on make a difference? Is this the investment they are making in the early game to maybe play a split push gameplay instead?
4-man gank around that gold lane. Dreams. That's a circling eagle stolen away from Deja. Doing a good job at zoning the Indonesian members here away from that tier 1. Whoa. For OP to take a good siege and a good rotation from Cambodia to pick that up. You can see, like you mentioned, Indonesia are looking to trade up in that XP lane, but up against the Yuzong, it's really difficult to do. It's a very sustainable hero that has a Petrify. Now that he is 2 kills ahead as well with that Black Dragon form, it really feels like he's unkillable unless Indonesia throws more than, well, unless they bring 4 people up to the XP lane.
Even with 3, as you mentioned, Mikko, it's going to be a bit of a stretch. But of course, Indonesia if they do go for that, they'll have some preparations in place. But now they're going for that mid lane play instead.
T still soaking in all the damage there. Does a good job to help
Ooh.
Deja to disengage. And Indonesia so far, every little rotation that they've been trying to do, every single catch they've been trying to look for, hasn't really worked out in favor for them. It's been Cambodia with the more efficient roams, more efficient rotations across the map.
It seems like Indonesia wants to be as aggressive, but without the Kadita they had in game number 2, without 2 Petrifies, because Psychots is not on that Yuzong. They just are struggling to find the right pickoffs, and they need to rely on these neutral objective fights. But even there, it seems like Cambodia is one step ahead. They will take a free turtle yet again. Perhaps Indonesia is waiting for more items, more of a power spike. They are a team with experience, and they have shown to actually be prioritizing that EXP lane yet again. Psychots able to take out that turret, but will that be enough? Will that be worth it?
We'll see here as Cambodia are trying their best to siege down that mid lane. Good rotations from Taz, moving over from his orange buff right to that mid lane to help out the other members on the team. But right now, like you mentioned, that's the wise choice by Indonesia, looking to trade instead of contesting for the neutral objectives, which is definitely going to be favoring Cambodia here in the mid stage of the game. For Indonesia, again, they need to wait for Brands and Hijume to get those item power spikes, and unfortunately for Indonesia, it does take a bit longer for them to get those power spikes. And you can see, with Windtalker built up by the Iritha, working on that Berserker's Fury next. Meanwhile, for the Beatrix, just that BODs, technically enough. He can go for something like a Haas Claws now, or even a Wind of Nature, and he does a lot of damage already.
I think later on, OP is going to go for more of a burst damage build instead of a DPS build. But as we talk about that, that's an engage by Taz.
Phantom Steed by Taz right now, as that's a Circling Eagle onto T. No one targeting the back line right now, as OP is still able to kite back. OP taken very low. Brand's looking for the play, but it's going to be OP who hits him back. Lutu caught in the real world manipulation as Dreams falls to the hands of Deja. Cambodia here, still, it's a 1-for-1 trade, and it's both of the roamers, so it's still a stalemate for both of these teams in the trades even.
But we talk about the power spikes, and before that, let's talk about that fight initially, because Taz goes for the engage, and you can see that the members of Cambodia spent a lot of time in that real-world manipulation, but they are not clumping up together. So Indonesia failed to get the quote-unquote combo and get massive value from that team fight. Oh, now we have a bit of a technical pause, though. So we have a bit of a moment to talk about what's going to happen, because for Indonesia, we've seen that they have a great grasp of their power spikes, and Hijume, he is rushing for that glowing wand. No Enchanted Talisman, he wants to be able to dish out the damage to be a real deterrent, to ensure that the tankier members, the Yuzong from the side of Cambodia, will not be able to just shrug off that damage, because it will be percentage HP.
Agreed. You know, if you take a look at Cambodia again, how they're able to play in these skirmishes, even though Indonesia were the ones to start it, right? The front line for Cambodia is just so visible, and so far it's been so impactful for them. As you can see, again, I'll re-mention again the compositions for Indonesia, where they are actually looking to dive, right? The Masha, the Leomord, with the Irithon, the Mathilda. It can kite back, but it's centered mostly on just diving and breaking that front line, that front to back that Cambodia have really built for themselves here with their composition. Now the thing is, with the Yuzong and obviously with the Lolita, it's just so hard to penetrate towards that back line. When Brands did that, when Brands was able to jump in with Dreams, he had to sacrifice Dreams for what? Just the Lolita, right? Soaks in so much damage, and in the end, even though OP was low, the help of Deja on that Valentina, it was enough of a threat to push Brands back away.
Later on, though, I do feel like Irithel and Beatrix in the ultra late game, I think Irithel has a bit of an advantage, and with the range difference, right? Of course, Deja can match it with the IMU, but for the most part, Hijume will also be able to actually do a lot more poke damage and pressure Cambodia into unfavorable exchanges. The Masha as well later on will be much, much tankier, much more so compared to Boom, and maybe excel in the 1v1 as well. So I think the later the game goes, the more options Indonesia have to actually play around with, provided that they don't let Cambodia just pull away from them as far as gold difference is concerned.
The gold difference is sitting at a 1,000. It's a 1,000 gold lead for Cambodia currently. It's not that big of a difference, but
Exactly.
I think it's the XP, right? That's right now dictating the match. OP is one level ahead of Brands, therefore dealing a bit more damage than him. And again, it comes down to those power spikes, which OP is able to reach a bit faster than Brands.
Level 11.
Level 11 also has that BOD. I think it was building towards something else there, either the Wind of Nature or the Haas Claws. But now it's, again, just both of the teams dancing around the neutral objectives. Meanwhile, though, Psychots really with a very aggressive movement to cut the wave under the base turret over there. This will definitely give the upper edge towards Indonesia when it comes down to that wave control and pressure. And you can see Cambodia with the movement already. Lutsu forced to go towards that bottom lane, and he is the jungler. This gives Indonesia so much base, and they are going to commit onto it, knowing that Lutsu is down below. Boom jumps in with Black Dragon form. That's the Numeron Blast, not connecting anyone, but it's the Petrify by Boom, connecting onto 3. No more follow-up. Brand's going to be caught there, and that's going to be a lot of damage placed onto with the Circling Eagle as well. Deja stopping him in his tracks as Psychons jumps in with the help of Dreams to find OP. Both of the gold laners, both of the marksmen taken down. Hijime looking for that kite back with his items and with the utility he has. Good slowdown. And again, it's just a 1-for-1, an incredibly close game for both Cambodia and Indonesia.
They trade gold leaders right now, but without that gold lane. We talked about Cambodia's reliance on having OP as the hero of the game right now. That means Indonesia has a lot more of an advantage. They are going for the Lord again, and they're going for a fight where their AoE can actually swing tides in their favor.
Brands is going to reach this Lord pit a bit faster. Real world inflation locking Boom down for the Phantom Steed to deal as much damage as possible. Brands finally rejoining the team. That's another Phantom Steed over by Lutsu, by Deja, who's able to jump in. Lutsu coming in, enabling the rest of the team to deal out that damage. A 1-for-2 now. It's still favoring Indonesia. Lutsu and Boom taken down for Taz. The Lord is not going to be committed on right now. Indonesia decided to just go for that mid lane. T trying his best to defend this, but it won't work out for him in the long run. The Circling Eagle might actually be able to take him down here with the help of the other members, but T will be able to get out. The Indonesian members opted to just go for the turret. And all that was just for a turret. This game is getting, like you mentioned, intense from the future, man.
It's going to be very much intense, even more so later on, especially for Cambodia. They are starting to lose their grasp on the game, especially with Indonesia's control over the neutral objectives. With that Masha split pushing as well, we've talked about this. Cambodia have a bit more of a combo situation. Indonesia have a lot more options to play around with. They can use the Leomord and the Masha defensively, and they have security. They have the Matilda's Guiding Wind to try and save their main carries as well. Cambodia does not have the same kind of luxury.
No, they don't, right? I think now they need to start prioritizing OP again, because in the last few fights they have been able to find Brands, but without the help of OP, it does feel like they will lack more, well, they will lack that sustainable damage. Boom with the Black Dragon form, Circling Eagle by Dreams, a bit too aggressive there, but the Numeron Blast now is going to be chained in, channeled in. Deja jumping on Hijume, who's still able to kite away, but not for long as he gets taken down by Boom. Brands with the Wind of Nature dealing a lot of damage and sustaining back up again, as that's so much on that back line. Taz is hunting, sniffing out, and he gets it onto OP. A brilliant read by Taz to find that double and to get Indonesia a 3-for-2 trade.
It's a very close game, man. Indonesia are winning these skirmishes, but only by about 1 kill each fight. But they keep repeating the same thing again and again. They have no urgency to take this Lord. They keep using it to bait the members of Cambodia into fights that they don't really want, that they can't really take. And it has been working so far, and eventually now they can get a free Lord, completely uncontested. And this is the beginning of the comeback for Indonesia, if they are able to maintain that discipline. Discipline is the name of the game, and on that note, we will take a bit of a break because there is a technical pause.
I think it comes down to the teamfight execution, Arashi, there. You can see that for Indonesia, like we mentioned earlier on, the problem that they had to face was that front line not breaking.
Yep.
The Martis, the Valentina even acting as a frontliner with the help of, obviously, the Yuzong. But in that fight there, they were able to split these members across different positions, and with their composition, it works. You know, this is what their composition was made for, to dive and to isolate the members, taking them down one by one simultaneously.
I think that is where Irithel excels as well, because you can be a lot more mobile and you're not really as vulnerable as all the other gold laners. In that fight though, Hijume was dangerously close to getting picked off. He was using his real world manipulation right on the tip of the Numeron Blast range. He flickered out of danger there, but that could have easily gone south for the Indonesians. And this just shows, again, how close the games need to be. All these players, they're not making mistakes. They are forced into those tough choices because the game is that close. Despite the best efforts and the tools available for both teams, any kind of win, per se, is only by such a slight margin. We have still no idea where this game is going to go.
It's crazy to see how both teams are playing right now, out of their minds. And after every skirmish, it's usually just either equal trades or one advantage in the trades for one of the teams, right? We saw a 2-for-1 for Indonesia. We also saw a 2-for-1 for Cambodia. Then, obviously, a lot of 2-for-2s, 1-for-1s here and there, back and forth with the trades for the turtle to the turrets. In the end, we are looking at Indonesia now with a pretty significant trade. They were able to get a 3-for-2. On top of that, the Lord as well. So, makes it a 4-for-2, as they are going to be able to finally push their lead, right? Because both teams so far, I think, have been just going back and forth with that goal lead. 1,000 over to Cambodia, 1,000 over Indonesia. Not really a sustainable goal lead for such a long time in this game. I think of 13 minutes of gameplay, and it's been back and forth completely up until this moment. And now it comes down to how Cambodia fights from behind.
Keep in mind, though, now Psychots has been such a nuisance, cutting in the waves, being that uncatchable, that very elusive EXP laner in not the same way, in the way that Boom cannot replicate, right? So Indonesia is having so much more macro pressure, and Cambodia, remember, when both teams trade in their gold laners, OP is the main hero for the side of Cambodia. That is not the same case for Indonesia. Anyone has shown, well, not anyone, but a lot of the other members has shown that they can completely step it up. And we've mentioned it again and again. There have been plenty of games for Indonesia where they let brands take that weak side and take the bulk of the pressure, and somehow, some way, he still stays relevant. So if this continues, I do think that it benefits the Indonesian team a lot more.
And I think it comes down to, again, Arashi, that wave control, right? The side lane control in the later stage of the game. Cambodia have been... The division of labor within Cambodia is a bit questionable in my opinion, right? Lutu has been the one sent down to the gold lane to actually clear that minion wave where, again, he's the jungler. He needs to be there. That was the reason Indonesia were able to commit onto Lord and to force Cambodia in a position where they weren't ready to look for a fight. But here it is once again. Nibiru's passion there by OP, but it's going to be cancelled out. That's still the mid lane tier 2 taken down.
They have a lot more siege potential here with that Eve, and now look at that flank though from T.
Oh, he's going to be spotted out here. It was initially such a good flank, but it's going to be spotted out, and that's the flicker out. The threat of that Numenal Blast flicker is no longer present for Cambodia.
That is completely unfortunate. And as you mentioned, Mirko, setting Luto is difficult, but they require Boom to have that kind of backline pressure in those team fights. Indonesia is making Cambodia have the hardest of decisions, and now with that superior siege, with that poke damage, with the counter engage available, they're slowly but surely working up their way, taking control over the jungle, and now Cambodia is in trouble. Can they even send anyone out to try and scout in these bushes? Because T has no flash, no flicker available.
Yeah, let's take a look at the items here. That's the Berserker's Fury, the DHS already completed as well. It's done for Brands here on the Irithel.
One more item to go.
He's working on either a... I don't know. Does he want to get a Scarlet Phantom here? I feel like, you know,
Has claws?
as late as this. I'm thinking...
I feel like Has claws would be better because how Irithel works out, but maybe he has something else in mind. Hijime, of course, I have my eyes on the Yve with a Divine Glaive, though.
You're biased towards Yve, Rashi.
I mean, it is what it is. He has penetration now, and that is a lot of AoE, especially if Indonesia is using these lords to actually bait Cambodia into a fight. The Psychots.
Oh, Psychots losing a whole lot of HP. OP with a brilliant Wind of Nature there. Baits out that Thunderclap. Now it's the engage once again by Dream. Circling Eagle over to Alpi, but it's a very good knock-up over from Boom. A kill over to Brands as well. Indonesia caught in the midst, now having to back off. Hijime getting the shield down with real world inflation, but Lutu comes in to follow it up. It's a blunder from Indonesia. 3 members falling, and this might be it for Cambodia. That was the moment they were looking for to turn the tides and to get the goal lead back in their hands.
20 seconds for Brands to be back onto the map. the wave is benefiting Cambodia, but their base isn't exactly safe as well. Right now, they go for the Lord, where they could have potentially went for an end push and catch and force these two remaining members into crazy fights. They go for the Lord though, the more calculative approach, but they might lose a turret because of it. Definitely a big benefit for Cambodia, but maybe it could have been a bit more efficient.
I think they made the right choice. I think if they went for more turrets, it wouldn't be worth it in the end. The turrets can go later on. Obviously, it's going to be there forever, but the Lord can be contested if the Indonesian members respawn. Cambodia decided to make the right choice over there. Again, playing it disciplined and not getting the pressure into their heads, right? Into their minds right now. A very good fight. And we actually asked this question right before the pause. How's Cambodia going to play from behind? That's how they play from behind. They still try their best to go for these coin flip fights, and they still know, even while they're behind, they understand where those little mistakes will happen from Indonesia. And like I mentioned, it is the Scarlet Phantom for Brands. We said either Immortality or Haas Claws could be another good option for him, but he decides to go for more attack speed.
Well, that is why, as well, that is why Cambodia keeps Boom in those team fights. That is the impact he can bring. And now with the Lord here, it will be cleared out by the Indonesians, and it's back to the status quo. It's back to Indonesia, pressuring with that macro game, abusing this Masha as much as possible, but Cambodia has equalized on the gold lead. This game is very, very intense, and I must say, I still think the late game favors Indonesia, but Cambodia is making it seem not so one-sided.
It comes down to OP, right, in the later stage of the game, and Deja, honestly.
Yes.
Honestly, it feels like it's every single member, because Boom was the key member to getting that fight over to the side of Cambodia. Now, OP and the rest of the members now looking for that bottom tier 2. Psychos looking for the flanks right now, but he's all alone. Caught in the midst of it all right now. As that's the advantage. Rage popped in. Psychos still going onto OP, who's still able to kite away. Real world inflation onto Deja, but he flickers out. Boom as well here, getting out to safety with a Furious Dive. Both teams disengaging. And it's an amazing team fight. Micro play shining for both Cambodia and Indonesia.
Keep in mind though, look at the battle spells. Everything has been exhausted by the Cambodian side, so there's a small window here where Indonesia can make a winning play. This is 19 minutes in the game for the most part, especially the main carries. Everyone is on a full inventory slot. Hijime has a winter truncheon, so watch for that being used to maybe bait out some abilities, but for OP, he has the Wind of Nature, so Psychots as well as Taz will have a more difficult time bursting him down. Grants included in that equation as well. It will be in the hands of Hijime to see if he can actually burst OP through that Wind of Nature.
19 minutes in now. Next Lord is going to be the Evolved Lord, and you can see Cambodia already maneuvering around that place, knowing that they have more pressure on the map currently, even with the disadvantage in turrets. With the top side continuously just pushing in towards Cambodia, they've been able to actually micromanage it to a point where it's always at a good position, right? Again, they're leaving it in that top side, having one minion pushing in as well.
Well, Luto has the Cursed Helmet right now, but Taz has built a Blade of Despair. Brands has switched over to a Has Claws, as we mentioned, so he won't be easily or as easily bursted down in these fights. That is how the Irithel usually operates, but Cambodians are pressuring for the Lord. They might just commit to it.
Psychons is looking for that split push here. This is the moment right now as Boom jumps in with the Black Dragon form. Going to be taken very low as Dreams does the same thing. Psychons on the base already right now, looking for that split push, looking for the back door. Boom going to be taken down. That's the Immortality popped in. Psychons still looking for the play as T is going to be losing his Immortality as well. Boom taken very low. Taz looking for Phantom Steed, gets the kill. T as well, falling 2-4-0. Psychons manages to distract the other members as well, and Cambodia with the Lord won't be able to do much. It's a 2-0 for Indonesia, and with all the waves in that top lane, the bottom lane, and even in the mid lane pushing into Cambodia, it feels like Cambodia are the ones now at a disadvantageous position.
You have to ask the question again, is it worth going for the Lord, trading it for the lives of your members? The longer the game goes, the longer these death timers will be for both these teams, and that must be something you need to calculate. If you take the Lord and lose 2, you might just be at a disadvantage. Indonesia is making Cambodia pay for that Lord take. They're going for the play.
The damage onto Opie with real world inflation, forcing the flicker out. Lutu trying to cancel it out, but will lose his life in the process right now as everybody goes for the base, and it might just be it. Indonesia manages to come back, reverse sweeping Cambodia, and going to the grand finals of IESF.
Indonesia got it done. My God. Cambodia made it so difficult. It was in such a difficult stalemate for so long. But in the end, the Indonesians have prevailed. And unfortunately for the Cambodians, they are the ones forced to swallow defeat. It is back to the drawing board because they still have an opportunity.
What a game, though, from Cambodia and from Indonesia. Both sides giving their all for this grand finals. It's unfortunate for Cambodia. It was a nice try in the end. What a game, what a performance. And it was a good call as well from Cambodia, knowing that, again, we have the man advantage. We want to go for the Lord. Psychots and Indonesia, though, that was... They won a 4v5 while simultaneously pushing in that split, using the Masha to split push in that bottom lane. And it feels like just such a solid call.
I mean, you can argue that the reasons they won is because there is urgency to go back to the base.
The forced error.
By the Cambodians, because otherwise it's a win-win for Indonesia. And being able to set up things like this is what is going to win you as the game, especially when it gets to such a late stage of the game. It's not only about the fights, the tactics, the strategy. You really see it shine through right here between Indonesia and Cambodia. From both teams, man, there's adjustments being made left and right. But unfortunately for Cambodia, Indonesia are the ones that are just that much more decisive, that much more flexible. But who knows? There's still next time, and we'll have to see what what's going to happen. If you take a look at some of the highlights here, it's just absolute chaos. And it's crazy that you can see the exact moment each side can lose the fight. When Brands got picked off, we knew that Indonesia has lost that fight. When OP gets cornered and gets a zone out of the fight, we know that Indonesia has the upper hand. The fact that these moments are so small yet so impactful shows again the caliber of these players at this international level of Mobile Legends.
The mentality to handle this sort of pressure. There was a few mistakes in the end there. Deja unfortunately flickering towards the Indonesian members, but it all came through in the end. You can see in this position as well, this was the moment where they were able to find a 3-for-2 and the Lord. Another fight here that Cambodia was actually able to win, right? Able to get a very good position on. But Arashi, this was just the first 11 minutes. Now we're getting to that late stage where every single fight mattered, and this was the blunder from Indonesia, where Boom was able to capitalize on, punishing the Indonesian members. This definitely sent a heart attack over to all of the Indonesian supporters.
Definitely. I mean, us on the desk, we were like, oh, wait a minute. This might just be it. But unfortunately for Cambodia, it wasn't. And then this is that fight where if you're a Cambodian player in this situation, now you're thinking, like, how do we deal with this? There's just so many things happening at the same time. And the answer is you need to deal with it way before. In that late game, you are not doing things for the moment. You are investing your actions for the next 1 or 2 minutes. And the match MVP is going to be Psychots from Indonesia, man. 0 kills, 0 deaths, 6 assists. Look at the damage taken, though. That might be the highest in IESF so far. 146,000. And the macro play, man. It's, again, going back to that macro play. When everyone is equally skilled and they all just flex their mechanics at each other, that macro gameplay is what makes a difference.
Psychons has progressed so much, has improved so much since we last saw him, right? A very young player, but so has Taz. Again, this man was given the nickname the Fluid Player because of how easily he can just, move to a role and adapt to that role. We saw him in the gold lane, in the mid lane. We saw him in the jungle, even in the same season, Arashi. And now he's back to the jungle again, playing pure jungle. His retribution in this game, there were a few that he missed, but hey, it went all good, right? And in the end, he was able to bring a positive impact for his team with the Phantom Steed and with the Leo Mord. I think out of all the junglers so far, does he have the most unique heroes picked in that jungle?
We have to look at the data again, but if you look at the items here, one of the big factors as well is the fact that Indonesia has a lot more damage to work with. You look at Cambodia, Lutu, for example, goes full tank, right? But if you look at Taz, he is tanky, but he has a lot more damage. And Psychots on the Masha, very, very tanky, but he can one-shot OP as well. So the fact that they have more options to deal the damage in the late game means that Cambodia is a lot more reliant and they are more vulnerable to trading out. Because if one member from Indonesia gets taken out, the rest still have some kind of semblance of damage. Whereas for Cambodia, if their main damage dealer is taken out, they're just automatically at a really tough disadvantage.
Man, again, looking at the game, with 6 assists, a total of 6 assists for Psycons, it did feel like a pretty low kill game, even though there was so much action around. But it just shows again how well both of the teams played around those team fights. And a lot of these team fights as well, no one was taken down. It was complete stalemate in a lot of these team fights because of how good these players were able to micromanage, even in the team fights, micromanage themselves and show their mechanics. It was just so good to watch, especially that team fight in the bottom lane where no members were taken down.
You have to keep in mind, they also have to keep track of the battle spells, because at any moment, a single flicker can change the whole course of the game. A single petrify means that you need to completely adjust how you want to position in a team fight. So this game, 20 minutes of all that swirling around in your head, it's definitely a very stressful time for the players. So all support for them, but Mirko, we're hearing that we have extra content for you guys.
Well, obviously, you know, Indonesia winning 2-1, a very close game. We would love to hear their thoughts regarding this game. And we have Masger, our wonderful host, to ask them these beautiful, beautiful questions. So, Masger, take it away. It's Mirashi throwing it over to our hosts.
Alright, thank you Arashi and Mirko. Now we are with Psychots. Kapten kita datang. Seluruh penjuru kota puji kehebatannya. Psychots, game pertama ada apa?
Mungkin ada sedikit mistake sih dari kita. Ya. Dan kita game kedua bisa memperbaikin lah keadaannya.
Oke, jadi ada sedikit mistake yang bikin ya mereka ya kalian nonton lah di game pertama seperti apa segala macamnya. Tapi di game ketiga tadi sempat ada sedikit blunder yang mengakibatkan 3 pemain dari Indonesia ke pick off. Itu bagaimana? Ada apa sebenarnya?
Itu miskom sih. Tadinya emang mau balik, cuman karena kayak headsetnya bocor, terus kayak ribut banget deh pokoknya, jadi kayak miskom gitu.
Oke, miskom. Setelah ini lebih pengen ketemu siapa untuk di Grand Final? Filipina. Siap-siap ketemu Indonesia lagi di Grand Final. So guys, kita bakal break dulu untuk mempersiapkan match selanjutnya, match ketiga di IESF 14 World Esports Championship antara Malaysia versus Filipina setelah yang satu ini.